Hello and welcome to the Winnipeg Food Council meeting. I'm Chair Russ Wyatt. Busla, Danny, our staff, with Nicole from clerks. I want to do the land and water acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the River Métis. Our drinking water comes from the Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty Speak territory. We have minutes from previous meetings that we need to pass.
Yes, we have minutes from the meeting on November 19th that need to be passed.
Okay, who would like to move that? Okay, Councillor Ryan Wood moves that. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, opposed, carried. I see support, thank you.
So Councillor Durand Wood and
yes.
then Manis the second.
Okay, it's great, thank you. We'll jump right into the agenda. I'm going to request that my report be put last, if that's okay with everybody, on the agenda, and I will move that down to the bottom. Report.
Sorry, just one more thing, Councillor. If you don't mind just making a motion to authorize the members on Zoom to participate remotely.
Okay, yes. Who would like to move that? I guess, okay, move for it. I'm trying to get everybody's name.
Dustin.
Dustin, yes. Thanks, Dustin. Sorry. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, let's go forward now. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
We've got all of that ready. Maybe just read the date and the time onto the record. Just
sure. We are today's date, February 11th. My God, February 11th, 2026. And let's jump right into that at a little bit 11, 12, 22. Okay. We'll jump into membership update. Introduction of new committee. Who would like our staff to do that for us?
Sure. So we have 4 new folks who have joined us for this meeting, including WRHA representative who is taking over from Martina.
Yes.
If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Great. So my name is Michelle Molinsky, and I am a Winnipeg Regional Health Authority Public Health Dietitian. I am the new Martina, who was previously on this coordinator, on this committee. And I'm really looking forward to participating in this and learning. And from Martina's words, she just said, make sure you're active on it. Don't just sit there, and you'll get so much more out of it for our community. So really looking forward to doing something very different in my day. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for that. And you have, by the way, you have a great political name. Have you ever thought about running for office? Michelle Martinsky? That's a great political name.
It's Molinsky, and it's my married name.
That sounds good. Listen, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
I don't think I'm going to run for politics. I'll just sit around the table here.
Well, you're going to get for if you decide. Anyway, who's next?
Brandy, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Brandy Bobier. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and community connector for Community Helpers Unite. We're a nonprofit food service and social enterprise caterer, and we are moving about 25 to 50,000 pounds of food a week that's being recovered from multiple donors and getting it out to agencies in the form of free meals, cheap meals, community walks, and public Feed the People events.
Oh, that's great, Brenda. Thank you. I love your tattoos. I don't have a tattoo yet. I'm going to get one. I got to get one. I know what it is. But if you have somebody you can recommend, let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic.
Eve, would you be willing to be next? Thank you.
Myself, right, Eve?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. My name is Eve Sudiriano. I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Muslim Women's Institute. It's a family resource center. We operate a food bank, a donation center, and many other programs and services. And I'm more than happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
The Canadian what institute?
Canadian Muslim Women's Institute.
Oh, wow, that's great. Well, salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you.
Thank you. You're great. And who's last?
Simi,
would you mind best?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Simi Diol, and I work with Canadian Race Relations Foundation, where I lead the community engagement across the province of Prairies and Nunavut. So what I do is I support anti-racism programming, build partnerships with community organizations, and help manage grants that strengthen the equity-focused work across our beautiful province. And also, I was very interested on serving with Food Council Committee was because I think food is really important and it sits at the intersection of the equity. That's something I'm really, really passionate about.
That's fantastic. Looks like we have 4 new members and 4 powerful women members. So thank you very much for stepping up, ladies, and doing this. This is fantastic. Thank you. We look forward to working with you. I think we're going to have an exciting year. So we'll get into that right now. Cover that on our agenda so you kind of see where we're starting. And you're at the right time stepping into, I think. So thank you. And we'll jump to the next item.
We just need to move
Oh,
that the
motion.
update is received as
Who
information.
like that? Brandon, would you like to move that?
Sure.
Okay, so moved. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And report from the coordinators. Who would like to go first?
I will.
Okay, Musla?
Yeah. So the 3 main things for the coordinators report, we welcome like all our new members. We have 3 new citizen members and 1 WRHA rep. So we look forward to working with you. The second thing will be our annual report. I think everybody here has a copy. If you're at home, you will be able to have access to an e-copy after this meeting. Yeah. So, yeah. And also we're going to put a copy of the annual report on the website as well. So you will be able to access both an e-copy or a physical copy if you need one. Another item for the coordinators reports will be the urban agriculture community grants. Danny will talk about that much later. I just wanted to say that we are hoping that after this meeting, we'll be able to declare that program open. And we have the proposed deadline for March 27th for the urban agriculture community grants. At the end of 2025, we had a meeting with the chair to prepare justification for the budget increase motion that went to EPC. So we did send a motion to have our budget increased, but we didn't get the increase. The increase wasn't granted. We also met with the chair, the vice chair, the clerk, and Ramon to discuss possibilities for the review of the terms of reference. We are hoping that we'll be able to have an ad hoc working group that will work on the terms of reference when that review starts. At this meeting, the clerk reached out, and at this terms of reference review meeting, the clerk also reached out to clarify, our ability to receive funding from internal and external sources. And so we're still hoping to do more work there. We've also had an orientation meeting for the new members, the citizen members. And at this orientation meeting, we got to know a little bit about what they do, and they've introduced themselves here. Myself and Danny have also met with the pro bono students and their lawyer and Ramon, and we talked about the work that they are working on. The pro bono students' work has been ongoing since last year, September. Yeah, and they should finish and wrap up by March, April. So I know for the sake of the new members, pro bono students are first year law students who they help the Winnipeg Full Council with legal research. So it might be in form of a memo, a report, or a brochure. So we've been working with the pro bono students from the inception of the Winnipeg Full Council. So presently they are working on a project right now, and we will share as soon as they have done the report of that project. And basically, I just wanted to mention that we had a very good meeting with them, and their lawyer was also involved in the meeting and was able to provide more insight and direction on the project. Myself and Danny also met with the Solid Waste Division and Corporate Communications in the public service because we needed to discuss plans for the Food Waste Action Week. So the way it works, the Food Waste Action Week is coming up in March, and the city would provide social media content. And they're also planning on a news release, which we would also copy some of those contents and post on the Winnipeg Full Council's social media handle. So we're working on that. And yeah, and as some of us already know, our partnership with Love Food Hate Waste has ended. Prior to today, we normally use social media content from Love Food Hate Waste, but we're not doing that anymore. So the city is generating most of the content for the social media releases. Yeah, and so that's the end of my report.
Okay.
So just one more sort of administrative thing is that we've sent in a host of changes to our website. So at the moment, if you look, won't, for example, show your names, but we are anticipating that sometime in the next week, we'll have the English and French versions of the updated web pages up.
Thank you. Anything else to add to your reports? Did you want to add anything, Danny? Or
That was it.
okay, good. Any questions about that? No? Okay, we will, if I, Dustin, get a motion to move the reports, all in favor? Opposed, carried. We will go to the report from the subcommittees. Dustin, do you have anything to report on at this point?
Yeah, thanks. Just a quick introduction for those that don't know me. My name is Dustin Hoft. I'm on my 5th year as a voting member of the Winnipeg Food Council, representing research. Also the chair of the Research and Policy Subcommittee as of a few months ago. So I guess the first part of it, there's not much to report. Taking a bit of a break from our last Winnipeg Food Council meeting, which was November 19th, and then the holidays, and voila, we're in February. So our next scheduled meeting is Monday for the subcommittee is Monday, February 23rd from 12 to 1. That'll be over Microsoft Teams. I sent a save the date out via email, but I will be sending out the agenda by next week. So this is just my ask that anybody who has items they want to put on the agenda, including presentations or items for discussion, please let me know as soon as you can. And I guess the other request was just a bit of information on the Research and Policy Subcommittee, just for those that would like to understand it a bit better. But as you all know, the Winnipeg Food Council operates through the work and guidance of its 2 subcommittees. So the Research and Policy Subcommittee undertakes projects and research activities on food systems related issues and policy. So it serves all 3 functions of the Winnipeg Food Council. One being advising mayor and council on food systems related issues. 2, it supports the work of the community on food issues, health, food security, and so forth. And 3, develop and implement a City of Winnipeg agricultural and food strategy to address municipal food security and food system issues. So I'm personally up on my last term in the Winnipeg Food Council. So it's my hope that we do see its implementation of the strategy before I'm done in December 2027 next year. So as what's written in the Winnipeg Food Council 2025 annual report, the strategic directions of the Research and Policy Subcommittee continues to be seeking resources for policy and program development and expansion, and ensuring the City of Winnipeg bylaws and programs are being used to their full advantage of food equity, and the city prioritizes food in its planning. So we'll be continuing to support the advance of the urban agriculture as green infrastructure. We've done a lot of work on supporting urban agriculture projects that include green infrastructure in its plans, not as an afterthought, but in the plans itself. Stay informed on municipal food related issues and opportunities, and advise mayor and council as appropriate. Monitor city progress on implementing Winnipeg Food Council recommendations. Example, Winnipeg Food Council recommendations approved by EPC, the Executive Policy Committee. and collaborating with other levels of government and supporting a multi-sector collaboration, including with organizations, businesses, community groups, and citizens. So I'll leave it at that.
That's great, Dustin. Thank you. And I want to thank Dustin for explaining that, taking us through. I'm used to I'm new to the Food Council as well. And just because of our resource issues, not that there's any fingers to point or anything, but one of the things we don't do well is doing an orientation for new members. So thank you for doing that. And if we can also ensure that the new members get a copy of our terms of reference, as we know today, that actually outlines it very well in the terms of reference. Make sure you get a copy of that so you can reference it and be able to read it as well. It's a good read. So thank you. Could I get I'll get the other committee report. Mike Shin is not here today. I think Danny has.
I do have some.
Yeah, so I want to thank Dustin as well for that.
So I can give a bit of information on Mike's stuff. So the Development and Communications Committee is responsible for overseeing development and communications. Mostly, they are responsible for the Food Council's social media accounts and overseeing the Urban Agriculture and Community Garden Grants Program. This year, we're hoping to develop a social media strategy to cover what is and is not appropriate to post and share for the social media accounts. The next meeting we're intending to have I think on March 30th. Sorry, Mike sent me some information about that, but I can't find it at the moment. But I believe it was March 30th at noon, and the idea would be to take the if the committee agrees to launch the Urban Agriculture and Community Gardens Grants Program for this year, with the proposed deadline of March 27th, then this meeting will be the one where we can organize having the folks on the committee evaluate the various applications, to score them so that we can then distribute the funds.
Thank you. There's going to be some matters coming out of that on the agenda here, so we can probably get right into that as well.
Sorry, there's one more thing though. Mike would like to invite everyone to please, if you would like to be part of the Development and Communications Subcommittee, please let us know so that you can attend the meetings.
So how does that work? That's a good segue to the question that I was thinking. How does that work? So the new members, they should choose one subcommittee they wish to be on? Is that the idea?
Yes, so we haven't limited them to just one. If you'd like to be a member on both, it is a time commitment, but we certainly appreciate your presence.
And they have access to your numbers. If you have questions, I'll give you my number as well. My number is 204-803-4049. That's 204-803-4049. I respond quicker to text, just to let you know that I can follow with a phone call. But I just want to give that a number that I'm accessible as well. And also Danny Boussard as well, if you have any questions about that membership. So thank you for that, Danny. Can I get a motion to pass the reports of the subcommittees? So moved by Brenda. All in favor? Always carried. We'll jump right now in the next budget item, which is the Winnipeg Food Council budget request. As Boussard mentioned, we did go before EPC, or I did informal representation before them in an attempt to get our budget increased. And I know this is something that has been going on for some time. Just to give you an idea, first of all, actually, can we get a motion to thank our staff who pulled together this wonderful annual report? They did a terrific job. Would somebody like to move that? Just to move them. Thank you, Brenda, moves that. We'll call a question on it. Thank you to our staff for doing such a great job. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And, they did a fantastic job. And I want to say that before I say the next, which is, gives you an idea of a committee that gets properly funded in the council. This is the Climate Action and Resilience Committee. They actually get it bound, their annual meeting report. But that's the difference that it makes. And it's not, they did an amazing job with the resources we have. But this, I'll pass it along. You can have a look at it. But, that's the difference. Now, one of the things I discovered working with our staff and reading our terms of reference that I mentioned earlier is that, I don't know how quite to put this, but council is actually in violation of their own policy when it comes to funding us, which we will delicately maybe point out to them privately first if we have to do it publicly. But the Winnipeg, I'll read from their exact terms of reference, our terms of reference, point 14A budget. The Winnipeg Food Council will operate with a budget equal to that of the other committees working with cross-departmental issues impacting all citizens, namely the Human Rights Committee Council, and the safety committee. So that's pretty clear. Equal to that. Now, just to give you an idea, the safety committee is now at $84,000. And funny, it just increased, by the way, 24,000 their last budget. Similar increase that we asked for, actually. And we're at 16,800. Family of 4 in Canada to feed themselves accurately. It's just under 18,000. So again, it puts it in perspective, kind of in a sad way. But you know, we want to be able to do the job. Now, what we're going to do in this meeting is steal from Peter to pay Paul, as the old expression goes, just to get us going. Because we really need to make this. I want to see us, and I think, and Dustin speaks to this well. He's more diplomatic than I, but we really have to make this committee rock and roll, as we say in Transco this year. You know, and so on the budget, I just would like to present a motion that for consideration that we can vote on. And go from there. So speaking to the budget, and I'm just trying to find my motion, that we have.
Sorry, is this for the 2025 budget or the 2026 budget?
Well, that's a good point. What are we talking about? What are you saying?
Right now, we're talking about the budget request you've made, and there will be a discussion about 2026 budget a little bit later.
Oh, a little bit later. Oh, geez, I'm glad you're watching the agenda for me. Okay, good. Then we'll bring it up then. That's a good point. Thank you. Any other questions about that right now? That's more of an informational thing, I suppose, that we've just covered off. So no, seeing none, Councilor Duran would like to move that report. All in favor, opposed, carried. And now we are in the terms of reference, which is good, which I'm speaking to. The terms of reference, I have a draft motion also for that for consideration of the committee. Just to give us, I want our committee to be able to give instruction to me, the chair. In other words, I don't want to go out on a limb and do something stepping outside the knowledge of the committee members and the support of the committee members. So what I would like, the terms of reference is a legal matter. We apparently have to meet with our legal staff to bring this together. And so really what we need to do is, I think, a motion basically directing the chair and the vice chair, I think, to meet with the city clerk and clerks and the legal department, appropriate officers of the legal department, and with their staff to develop wording for needed changes to the Winnipeg Food Council terms of reference. And this is all about, folks, the challenge we have right now, just for the new members, is that, okay, we've run into this financial crunch, but the terms of reference actually ties our hands from being able to actually go out and even raise money from the private not-for-profit sector to basically partnership with. So, for example, the community gardens program, it's a wonderful chance to get sponsorship that would actually offset the funding shortfall for us. So that's the idea of getting our terms of reference amended. Just to give you an idea of why we're doing this. So, is there somebody who would like to move that motion? For us? Yes.
There's 2 ways you can go about it, Councillor.
Sure.
If you would like to make a request for the public service to meet with yourself and legal and the city clerk.
Yes, that's how it would be. Yeah.
No motion is required.
Okay.
If you're wanting to direct, then we have to go through EPC.
Oh, no, we don't want to do that. That's too much red tape. So we do want to go there for the right thing, though.
Okay.
We're not scared of EPC, that's for sure. But okay, so let us do that, the first thing you said.
So request that the public service, or request that the city clerk and legal meets with you. That's something that you can request.
Is that all right that I do that? Is everybody, can we get a nod? That there's kind of a sense of that I proceed in that direction? Okay, very good. We will do that. Council has all these rules, you know, they're quite silly. Anyway, so, all right. And then the second part of that is, and I guess I'll take your lead on that one as well, Nicole, is the ability, if necessary, to call for an interim meeting of the Winnipeg Food Council. I understand we already have the powers. I have the powers to do that under the terms of reference, to consider new wording for the changes to the terms of reference, rather than us having to meet for our next meeting, which is what, 2 months away, I think, or something like that?
Is it?
Yeah, April the 8th.
Yeah, so that's a long ways away. And, you know, we want to get going on this terms of reference stuff, changes. And if we can get it to the floor of council, this has to go to the floor of council. And so the sooner we can get the changes that legal can agree to, and the clerks and everybody else agree to, then we can bring it back here for discussion and then vote on it to take it forward to council. So if that, is that okay with everybody as well? Do we need a motion on that one then?
Yeah, so on November 19th, we passed the formation of the subcommittee to work on the terms of reference. So we've already gone through that process.
Okay, good.
So the subcommittee to work on those terms of reference will work with the coordinators and those members
Good.
to propose something that we can then present to recommend to EPC, and then hence once it goes through EPC, could be presented to council.
Okay, so that means then that my terms of reference motion I propose is probably not necessary, which is a motion to direct the chair of the Winnipeg Food Council to be joined by any member of the Winnipeg Food Council to come in formal delegation EPC at the right time.
Yeah, and that's your right. You don't even need a motion for that, sir. You can, you would just have to follow the proper procedures for registering for delegation within, after the agenda is published.
Yeah, and that would be speaking both in terms, I'll just get you a second, that would be speaking both in terms of the needed change for the terms of reference that I mentioned regarding outside funding, and as well, the need, hopefully, to step up on the funding side, which is the living up to the terms of reference as it's stated today. Maybe that can be done without us having to go to EPC in advance of it. We'll see, but we'll go from there. Yes, Tustin.
Thanks. I was looking to get maybe some more clarity on the direction of the new subcommittee that's looking at the terms of reference, when they plan to meet, when they plan to work in collaboration with this with the legal and things like that. I just want to understand, is the time frame appropriate, and is everybody else on board with that too?
Okay, so are you thinking you were like, you want to know the next meeting times of the committee, or because we haven't said anything yet, just to let you know. Like, we're gonna put the request in to legal and clerks, and that will kind of drive, I guess, hopefully we'll get something back saying, yeah, we can meet soon. And that will drive that part, but then we can let everybody know about that and keep you updated.
As a council though, what's the expectations for the April 8th interim meeting? What would we be bringing to that meeting?
The idea would be if we can sit down with legal and clerks, we can come up with a new wording prior to taking the wording has to go to on EPC and then on a council if there's agreement to the change politically as well, not just administratively. I would like to take it back to this room, show you what the changes are before we go forward. And that's the idea of having an interim meeting prior to the April meeting. That's the idea behind that. So that we may have the authority granted to us to go and do these suggested changes, right? Or make the changes. But I don't think we should go forward with the changes until the committee here has a right to, the council has a right to see it first. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it would be my recommendation to utilize that April 8th interim meeting as a first read so that we can vote on it on our regular next food council
Sure,
meeting.
I agree with that. That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
Ramon has his hand up.
Yes, somebody had a question on the screen?
Ramon.
Oh, Ramon, go ahead. Ramon, you have a question? Your hand is up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my question also pertains to, I have 2 points. First question in relation to the timeline for getting the terms of reference approved by the Executive Policy Committee. And because in relation to that, well, the main objective of this terms of reference is to be able to leverage external funding resources. And I would like to suggest that parallel to that effort of making changes to the terms of reference, the staff would, if possible, could collect information in relation to the potential external funding sources that we can leverage so that we are able to prepare for the submission of proposals, whether they come from the province or federal or private sources. So I think it's really important to be prepared for those submission deadlines so that we'll be able to maximize the opportunity of leveraging external funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramon, and I want to thank you for that. I think that's an excellent point. And to Ramon's point, I would invite all the committee members to give that some thought And if you have any thoughts in terms of entities, companies, we all have our connections in the community, right? That we could approach on putting together a package for sponsorship that, let's say we're given the green light to Ramon's point. We want to be able to hit the ground running is what Ramon's saying, I'm hearing. And I agree with you 100%. So thank you. We want to be very specific too on what we're meeting about on the terms of reference. As has been pointed out, we're really meeting with them to change that clause or the clauses pertaining to the inability or the restriction on us from being able to raise funds outside of the city of Winnipeg, basically, to support the operation of the community. We do not want to seek a change to the terms of reference that I read earlier, which is that this committee is funded equal to the other funding of the other committees. My thought is that when it comes time, I've sounded out, members, just to let you know, I've sounded out the staff of the mayor's office on this. They seem to be, and members, some members of APC, they seem to be open to that idea. They, like anything, like any government, I suppose, they come down with their budget. Their budget is their budget, right? And then it's a question of losing face if they got to make amendments later. So possibly the saving grace, or as my father would call it, everybody needs a soft place to land, is going to be that they agree to the change so we can raise the money. But hopefully come the 2027 budget, we will let them have the opportunity to live up to the existing terms of reference, right? Which is to fund us properly. So those are just some of my high-level thoughts on the matter. Any other questions on it? On the terms of reference? So we have the authority granted, and so I think we're on the right track. We'll keep you informed about when we hear back. And that will be initiated how, Nicole?
So what we've been advised is consistent with other committees, draft wording that's provided by the subcommittee with a legal opinion on final wording through the coordinators. So when you make a proposal with the changes to the terms of reference through the coordinators,
right.
So not through the city clerk, but through the coordinators, okay. We'll go through legal on to get a legal opinion on whether that's permitted.
Right.
Just a few points that I could add for clarity, if that is helpful. Currently, council cannot delegate authority to apply for or receive external funding to an ad hoc committee comprised of citizen members, right?
Right.
So again, any application for that type of funding would have to come from the public service. So
unless we change the terms of reference accordingly and it goes to council to approve.
Right. So anything as it stands now, any recommendations that you have would go through EPC and then council.
Yeah, that's a very cumbersome process, yes.
Yeah, so again, because we've already passed at our last meeting in November that a subcommittee is to be formed, then I think you're on the right track to getting started working on that project.
Okay, good. But in terms of getting the meeting with legal and clerks, what's the next step? How does that happen?
Again, those things can be requested at any time by yourself as a counselor. No motion has to be made.
Okay.
If you want to speak, we can definitely provide procedural
Can
advice.
you draw something up for me that I can then send to the clerks and legal to just say the wording?
Oh,
You're good at that.
yeah. So in what respect? Sorry, sir.
In terms of requesting the initial meeting to get this going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what we can do is we can request that legal meet
Yes.
with you. That I can
With
definitely
myself and Councilor Bradwood and
along with the coordinators.
and yourself.
So I can facilitate that process with Danny and Busola and
Wonderful.
verify with our staff what the
legal being the key one here, right? The legal people, right? The legal beagles.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the legal would have to take a look at your final proposal for the changes to the terms of reference. That's more when they come into, but they could give you some
Advice.
advice, right?
Good. They always say you should take the advice of your lawyer. So anyway, okay, sounds good. Any questions on that? No? Can I get a motion to approve that part of our agenda being the terms of reference changes that we've just discussed? So moved by Brenda, all in favor?
Brandy.
Brandy.
Brandy. Sorry, Brandy. I apologize. Thank you. I'm slow at that. Brandy, thank you. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Very good. Okay, now the 2025 annual report. We already have the motion. Thank you. Thank you very much. You have a copy of it. Any questions about the annual report?
Just want to make sure that everybody's had the opportunity to review it because I know it's very fresh.
Yeah.
I didn't get an email on it before, so
Yeah.
if people didn't look at the agenda for the meeting, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to review it yet.
And I'll take that note for next year as I'll make sure that we highlight that it's available for review.
Good point, Dustin. Thank you. I just want to thank again the staff for pulling this together. We did it over the holidays kind of thing. And, you know, it really, we wanted to put in here a big thank you to Councillor Schreier and in memory of him and everything that he did. One of the things that's in the annual report, I just want to point to, I'd like to get a motion on this actually. Maybe, you know, have a look at it and then we get a motion at our next meeting. There's no rush on it. But the land and water acknowledgement, we included in the annual report a slight revision to the land and water acknowledgement. That's on page 4. It still has the city of Winnipeg land and water acknowledgement, but it starts at the beginning with a part of it which now is more, I guess, pertinent to our committee as a food council. Have a look at that, read that over, send me an email at rwyatt at winnipeg.ca, rwyatt@winnipeg.ca, RWYATT at winnipeg.ca. If you have any kind of comments or suggestions or changes to it, please let me know and maybe we can vote on that, make it formally our land and water acknowledgement going forward, if that's okay. So that's the only thing that I have that I wanted to point out. Yes.
And just to add to that, Councillor, so any proposed changes to the wording would have to be presented by yourself either at community committee or council.
All right.
This committee doesn't have the jurisdiction to make the change, but
we would make it so we can vote on it here and then have to go forward.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, very good. And that's how we would do it, I think. So very good. Okay, thank you for that reminder, Nicole. Anything else on that? Any other questions on the annual report? And thank you, Dustin, for that. We'll try to get it out so that people have more time to read it in advance of this meeting. But I think it came together nicely. So how many copies do we get made?
10 printed and then an infinite number on the internet.
So can we get more printed?
Sure.
Okay, that'd be good. I'd like to get them out, you know, to the community. So
Do you have a number for that?
well, I'm going to get back to you on that. So I'll find out what the cost is for a second. Let me know what the cost is.
Okay.
And I like to give you guys all copies. So you give it to your friends and everything else and circulate it. You know, you all know your contacts out there. And, you know, the more people who have a chance to read this, the better, I think. So
The clarity would be to have more copies printed once it's approved.
right, that's a good point. Have we approved it? We have to approve it now.
Yep,
Oh, good.
that's
All right,
what
good.
you're
Thank you for the reminder.
Are we giving a chance to have everyone else review it, or has everybody had the chance to?
Well, that's a good question, but we're on a bit of a timetable and get the annual report out. So my question would be this: do folks need time now to review it, to read it over, or what are your thoughts on that? I would like your guidance. Or can we?
Is there typically a draft reviewed by the
Oh,
council?
yeah, please, yeah.
Typically is a funny word in this case. We have previously shared it with our chair to review for important edits and then presented it in meeting or as we're doing right now.
And I think ideally going forward, what we'd want to do is to try to get it, the draft of the annual report, ideally at our last meeting in December, so that we can make the final approval in the first meeting in the new year. So that's just something I think we should try to, so you kind of peel the onion a certain way, right? So, okay.
Ursula, did you find the typo that you found before on the draft? Maybe it was changed.
Yeah.
Oh, where's the typo?
There was a duplicated word that
There was a
on the
duplicate word I
draft.
found on the e-copy, but I can't see it yet.
Okay, well, I'm gonna.
So maybe it's gone.
Can we get a motion to approve it as is presented to us, but with the understanding that we'll all take the time to read it very carefully with fresh eyes. And if there's any kind of typos or, very clear factual errors or something to that effect, please let us know. Like, please, subject to that, then we have the approval done, but subject to that, I think would be fair. Yes.
What would be the process for revisions
Well, again,
after approval?
I believe, and clerk can correct me on this, but that we would make a motion and then it would be registered as an addendum.
As long as we get it done before the meeting.
Yeah, we just have to get it forward to EPC and council, right?
Yep.
As required with a work plan. So as well, we have the work plan too. So in the annual report, I'll point you out to on page 14, Appendix A, which is details the budget request we made to the, yes, yes, sir, yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are we going to get a PDF by email or are we get a hard copy?
It's on the, if you look at if you have access to the agenda, it's on the appendix.
But we could get, if we have 10 copies, in theory, we can print a couple more. We should get one hard copy out to everybody. I like a hard copy, that's just my thought, to read it, to mark it, right? Could we get a hard copy to everybody by snail mail or by courier?
Presumably, if everybody who's interested in a copy to be mailed to you, please send me your mail address and I'll have it sent out.
And also send your mailing address or your business location, what have you, and we can get a printed copy to you.
That's right, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, good. So, Dustin, could you move that motion that we tentatively approve it, subject to any changes communicated on the basis that if there's a big change, if there's something that's massive, then then we have to have a special meeting for that, we will have one, right, to be able to get this moving forward. So,
I mean, while I'm okay with it, that sounds like a really difficult motion to.
well, I think we leave it to if you trust in the chair. If I see something that that is significant enough that it changes the intent or the communication, right, or the deputy chair, then I think it'd be worthy of yes, Councillor Drywood.
Do we have to like adopt it today? Could we give it a month and then do it then?
Well, the problem is we don't meet for another 2 months, and we
right.
have to get a DPC in the
Yes.
council.
Okay,
Yes,
yes.
that's the problem we have.
So I would recommend that if everybody could take a look at it as soon as possible, and
Yes.
if there's any changes to advise the coordinators ASAP, and then I'm assuming it'll only be typos, and we can, as Danny said, present it as an addendum to the next EPC meeting.
And then we will communicate that either from myself or from one of the coordinators to all the members, just a conclusion of that. So why don't we if we set the deadline Friday next week, is that enough time for everybody to be able to read this? What is that date?
EPC's on the 20th, I believe.
Pardon me?
Julie had a.
Julie, you have a question?
No, I was just saying, going to suggest that as well, when the report is posted online, it can be shared once approved and everything like that. So if we get the link, we don't necessarily need hard copies, which is an additional cost.
Very true. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. You're practical. Thank you. What were you, Nicole?
The EPC meeting, I believe, is February the 20th.
Okay, so
Or
no, we don't have
sorry,
to worry
let me
about that. What
just
is
look
that?
at
What is
my
next
calendar.
Friday's date? What is it next Friday?
Next Friday, sorry, let me just go into my
So-
calendar.
It's 20th.
20th?
Yeah, so
So
EPC
February, is that
on the
enough time for everybody to read and give your comments by
Isn't that the EPC?
the 20th?
That's the
Okay.
EPC meeting.
Are you thinking about getting into the meeting?
Let me just, I'm sorry,
Oh,
just
you're
give me a second.
sure.
I'm looking at my
Yeah, sure,
calendar here.
I got you now.
Okay, so EPC is February 17th.
February
Yeah,
17th.
so typically,
And we need to get into that EPC meeting? Can we not go to the
Yeah.
March meeting? No, the sky's not gonna fall.
if there's any amendments, we should be moving them now. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we
no,
would
we-
need
we-
someone at EPC to.
Let's go to
that.
the March meeting and let's give everybody a chance to read the annual report. I think that's important. You know, and have their input. Everybody should have that and be part of that. So yeah, okay, so February 20th, which is next Friday, you get back to us, any changes, or even just say, I have no changes, thank you very much. That would be good too, just so we know that everybody's gotten back to us. If you could do that, that'd be great.
So we'll lay over to the March meeting then for EPC.
Well,
Like
we're not
to
laying
send
over,
it- send it
well,
over
we're
to
gonna, and
EPC.
with the instruction we will be making the submission subject to the final approval of received through email. If there's any changes, we will be presenting this in the March meeting, yes. And by the way, that March meeting is what date of EPC?
Let's take a look here. It's usually a week before council. Let me find it.
I got it the 17th.
17th, that's correct.
Oh, the day after St. Patty's Day, there you go. Okay, so March 17th. Make sure you don't drink too much the night before. If you wish to come to I don't drink anymore, but if you wish to come to the meeting, please let me know. Everybody is welcome to attend. I'll be making a presentation. I'll be speaking to, of course, the work we're doing, the work we plan, which we'll talk about in a minute, and as well, the funding situation. So anybody else I would welcome, especially Dustin, with your experience would be wonderful. Also, Councillor Duran Wood, anybody else who wishes to attend with us, I think numbers are important, and I welcome that. So, okay, do we need a motion on this? I guess we should.
We would just need a motion, yes, to pass the 2025 annual report attached as Appendix A to be recommended to the Executive Policy Committee for approval in March. Subject to any changes.
Subject to any changes. Can somebody move that, please? Councillor Duran moves it. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so moving forward on that. Remember, next Friday, February 20th, everybody get back to us. Just let us know if there's any errors or suggested changes. Thank you. Coming back now to the agenda, we are on the work plan 2026. Yes. Who would like to anything that would like you to take us through that? Everybody have a copy of the work plan. I think the biggest thing in the work plan is kind of the next item, which we're going to be talking about, right? Which is
Strategic plan.
yeah, the strat plan. We should actually do that now, I guess. Which is what has been suggested in the work plan, and this is related to the community gardens program. Is right now all of our funding gets taken up by the community garden program. So it was pointed out to myself by the chief of staff to the mayor, Destiny Watt, that what we should consider doing in the interim is what I mentioned earlier, stealing from Peter to pay Paul, which is to take approximately $5,000 to $7,000, let's say a maximum of $7,000 of that for now, earmark it towards the strategic planning session. Now, this is something that is I've identified, I've heard from the committee members, is crucial to this committee because we've kind of in a sense, I guess, maybe I put it this way, and again, no fingers pointed, but spinning a wheel, in terms of what our mandate is, where we're going, what our future direction is over the next 5 years. And, for lack of a better term, I guess, the Winnipeg Food Council, in terms of the strategic plan going forward, I always like to I've learned from other committees and being on them, it's nice to come up with a bit of a branding, if you like. I think that's the terminology used. Is that the Winnipeg Food Council, and Councillor Duran Wood, I want to thank you for input on it. We worked together on this. The Winnipeg Food Council - let's rise up and reverse the food security crisis, 2026 to 2031, bold new strategic direction. So that's kind of the idea behind the strat plan. So as part of our work plan. So I want to make sure that's included in the work plan. If that wording is okay, for that we can include that as part of our work plan, and it pertaining to that. And that we we indicate in the work plan that we're moving up to $7,000. I've requested Councillor Duran Wood as well to head up the coordination, the planning of the strategic plan. And she's kindly agreed to that. So I thank you, Councillor, for that. And we'll be working with her on that, being myself and anybody else and our coordinators. But if anybody out there has any experience doing strategic planning, and if you have somebody and you've come across somebody in that field who you went to a strategic planning session for a weekend and you were really impressed with them as a strategic planner, please forward us and Councillor Duran Wood directly that name so that we can find somebody. We want to get the best person up to our budget limit, right, that we have before us, but we really want to be able to. I think the ideal scenario would be we find a date and time and we go away or starting on a Friday and we start the work and we finish it up on a Sunday morning and write the strategic plan, ideally at a facility. There was the facility out in St. Charles. It's way out on the other end of the city for me, but that's okay. It's I think the Catholic Church has a facility there where they actually have very humble accommodations and they have meeting rooms, and people do strategic planning and all sorts of different types of retreats there and things. So that's a scenario. So it keeps us out of the hotels, right, which are costly, and then we'd have to just worry about food and everything else, which I understand they also provide if we do choose to do that. I don't know the name of the facility, but I just want to point that out to Councilor Grant Wood. That's something that's available. There's other places like that. I think there's a place down in St. Norbert, right? A monastery there. Anybody has any information on that, please supply it to Councilor Grant Wood or myself, which I will then supply to her. Okay? Anything else in the work plan subject to that one change?
Just a couple points to note, Councillor, in the proposed work plan and budget that we have for the next two items. It's been proposed that $5,000 be earmarked for strategic planning in the document.
Okay.
So if we're going to propose any changes to that, we're gonna have to amend it before you make the motion.
Yes. Then maybe we can give a little bit of leeway here to the organizers of this strategic plan session, knowing what costs are like today, that up to 8,000 maximum. Hopefully we'll keep it down closer to 5. But, you know, and then that leaves us still, 12,000. What does that leave us? 7,000? No, Brucella's shaking her head.
Yeah,
She wants to keep us to 5,000. Okay.
Yeah.
That'll leave us about 9,300
Right.
for the community garden grants. 8,000. And
So don't steal too much from Peter.
the problem with having that range as opposed to a number,
right,
is that it will be much more difficult to distribute the funds for the grants.
Okay. No problem. Let's do it that way then.
Yeah,
Up to 5,000.
yeah.
Yes, Dustin.
Okay, two comments, I guess.
Yes.
Related to the same item. I'm not opposed to the strategic planning. It's critical that we do see progress because we have been sort of spinning circles with it. It's very true. I know that in years past, when we have had shortfalls, we've been looking to make up the shortfalls for the urban agriculture small grants program using other methods.
Right.
Of course, funding hasn't worked,
Right.
but in previous years, we've had commitments by councillors to utilize some of the ward allowance as a shortfall to make up that amount, to fund projects that have been applied through the small grants program that are in their ward.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's a win-win, but also is a workaround to not having external funding fund the small grants program.
Yeah.
And also can support as many possible applications this year rather than see a reduction.
I like that idea.
Well, the benefit of that too is that because the money isn't actually going into any purse for the food council,
It's going direct to that grant.
it doesn't, there's a whole host of rules about money
Right.
going to other departments in the city that we won't touch. And that would be a great way to skip a lot of red tape.
What I find ironic about that, and I'm going to share it, so full disclosure, I tend to get my money out of my CWA. I maximize my CWA as much as possible in terms of activities in my community. And I get into trouble sometimes at the end of the year by overcommitting, and I ran into a shortfall. I was able to take some money out of this committee to help balance my CWA, but you can't go the other way around, which I found interesting. But anyway, that's for the clerks to explain to me. I don't get that, but yeah, but I guess that's how it works. So I think the best thing we can do here would be to say, why don't we, in light of that, why don't we say that we approve, maybe subject to councilors committee out of their CWAs, right? We've some 5,000 limit, but with an asterisk beside it saying that we may be able to get a bit more funding if we could offset it, right? So if a councilor commits to grant funding for a community grant program, we can offset that money to help us shore up the strat planning if we so need it. I guess to thoughts on that.
So, sorry, just to clarify,
Yeah.
Councillor. So, for everybody here, internal funding from previously approved budgets cannot be reallocated to the Winnipeg Food Council. But as Dustin just said, the workaround in the past has been if people applied for community small garden grants and were not successful, that they could apply directly to the counselor if they live in that ward to have
I see what
fun.
you're saying.
Right. So they're two separate things. We can't direct that action.
Oh, I see. Okay, what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
It's just a
Well, it sounds
workaround.
too
Like
good to be true, I guess. That's okay. All right. But that, okay, sounds good. We're trying to, okay, good point. Anything else on that, Dustin?
Yeah, just the idea that we wouldn't have to see any reduction, that we could use our full allocation similar to 2025
Yeah,
for 2026 urban agriculture small grants. And if we are looking to take 5,000 for strategic planning, then if we had a commitment of 5,000 plus from the ward allowance, that 5,000 plus would go towards projects in their community.
right. And so in theory, though we can't, to Nicole's point, we can't openly tie it to that. However, if let's say we were able to get 5 counselors, each committing $1,000 each, right? To the community grants program, in theory, we could safely then move this 5,000 we're doing today. We would have with no impact on the community grants program, right?
It wouldn't show in reporting, but it would show in the benefits to the community.
Well, and you know what I'll agree to do as a chair and as a member of council, and maybe Councilor Duran would, we could work together on an email to this effect together, which would be to send to our colleagues on council, just to let them know this, a brief email, let them know the circumstances, what we're facing here, challenge. And maybe if we know in what community garden programs in their ward would be ideal for them to fund and the benefit they would get out of that, so that they have there's a bit of a carrot there, right? And an attraction to them to maybe step up with a little bit of money and see if we can get some 5 or more of our colleagues to agree to ideally $1,000 towards funding the community garden programs in their wards. Is that possible?
We do have some analysis we've done of where requests for funding have come from.
Right.
So we could support you in that by providing a list of who's applied and how much they've asked for.
Right. So that would be great. And we could draw that up and send that out as information. So pretty. Yes, Councilor Duran Wood.
I'm just wondering what typically is the amount of a community garden grant?
A maximum is $2,000.
Minimum 500.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we've ever actually had a minimum. There's we've given as much as we can within the constraints, and some of the applications are strong enough to merit money, but because of our limited funds, we've reduced how much we can give.
And it should be pointed out at this point that councillors have the ability not just to take it from the CWA, which they may not want to do, but the council in the last budget has approved $315,000 worth of funding to what they call what's been called the community fund. And the community fund, of that 115 is for capital alone. I'm not too sure if the community gardens would qualify for capital or not under the city's capital rules. Probably not. It's more of an operating thing. So that still means that there's 200, but what's interesting, I think, although the capital has to be used for capital, there's 200,000 still in operating or capital that councils can use. So they have a fair bit of discretionary spending, I guess is what I'd say, this calendar year, which surprise, is an election year. Anyway, any questions about that? Okay, so yeah.
Sorry, just following on that train of thought.
Yeah.
If maybe a typical grant is $2,000, then would we think about combining like a smaller grant with a counselor supported donation to ensure that they get
I like that.
what they need? Is that what we're envisioning? I mean, my only concern is that we just can't, Counselor why you and I can speak for ourselves and what
Right,
we're willing to support, but we can't really necessarily count on anyone else, and everyone's got lots and lots of needs in their ward. I mean, I'm already supporting lots of security stuff in my ward as it is,
Right,
so,
good point.
yeah.
I like
know.
that idea of like being able to say, well, this group applied for this, but we need a top up kind of thing almost, right, to help them out. Could you help them? Because they actually asked for this, right? Okay, is that possible, Danny? Is that discretion, that delta is something that we could use as a bit of leverage or encouragement with our colleagues?
Yeah, I think it'll take a little bit of working through the details of that.
Okay.
I think I don't want us to get so far integrated that we suddenly are falling afoul.
And I don't want to make email too complicated. Councilors don't have time to get a ton of emails. Keep it simple, but I think, and it's often, I don't know what your thought is on this, Councilor Brownwood, but I often believe when I've raised money for groups and organizations in the past, if you have a target, you ask for double, right? So you go in asking for 2,000, and leadership, so as you know, is about leading by example. So we have to be able to say, you and I have personally committed our own, right? They're going to want to know, well, what have you done with your own community fund? And so we can say that in the email if we can agree to that number as well in advance, and then go from there. So yeah, good point. Thank you. And we'll have a motion to approve the work plan as we see it. Can somebody move that?
Okay, so just to
Yes.
confirm, no amendments to the proposed.
That's
work plan?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah.
So we're going ahead with the, the budget is a separate item.
Yeah, the work plan right now is what we're on, which is on, there was an attachment with the work plan on there. That's what we are required to submit with the annual report as per our terms of reference.
Historically, we've had them both as the same item, but we separated them this time just in case there was any amendments that were required.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
And I think it's good because I was looking at the other committees and that's what they do as well. So that's fantastic. The other subcommittees. Can I have a motion to approve? Anybody out there wishes to move that motion? I will get room. Okay, so moved by Michelle. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Winnipeg Food Council 2026 budget. Well, that was already in the work plan, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
we
good.
just separated in case there was
Oh,
any
I see.
amendments that were required, but.
Okay, we just discussed it.
yeah, if
already.
you
I
wanna
do
make-
just want to make one note about the budget. In
Yes.
particular, is that some funds have been redirected from, for example, education and training. For the past few years, we haven't used any of that budget. So that got moved into the strategic planning. Meeting expenses have been much lower than we had anticipated,
Right.
so. that
Those are
got
the
moved-
expenses I tried. Yeah.
That got into strategic planning, as did a fair portion of our promotion, graphic design and printing expenses.
Okay.
So it wasn't 5,000 right out of the Urban Agriculture Community Gardens grants program. It's we've managed to just drop that by 3,700 instead of the full 5,000 by redirecting the other elements of our budget.
Okay. Well, and thank you for that, Danny, because that, one of the things that I wanted to, that segues nicely into a matter that Danny and Busla and I have had discussion on. And I'd like to get some direction for this committee to meet with the CAO. And that's really pertaining to, it relates back to the budget here in our funding shortfall. And that is, there was an understanding when this committee was created that the support provided by Danny Busla as a resource to the committee, it would be shared with the committee on climate resilience, right?
Climate action was
Climate action resilience, the mouthful. And that the sharing of the resources of the staff, we're going to be on about a 2/3 to 1/3 split. Winnipeg Food Council being 1/3, that committee being 2/3, is my understanding. The challenge we're seeing going forward, of course, is that as we become more active, right, and doing more things, they only have so many hours in the day. So this is not on them in any way, shape, or form. This is really a practical issue that we're now running into. And this is where I'd like to have a meeting with Mr. Dunford and discuss with them, because they've been given direction by their director, which is technically, I guess, Tim Shanks, right, Water Waste. And we really need and maybe Mr. Shanks would be in the meeting with Mr. Dunford to discuss this and say, this is what I'm running into now as a challenge for this committee. We need to have this reconsidered. And especially now in light of the fact we have the funding, what we have, right? And so I'd like to get a motion to that extent. Just, is it informal? It's not a formal motion to the EPC.
Yes.
It's just a motion to say that Councillor Wyatt may reach out to the CAO and possibly Tim Shanks as well, maybe with Councillor Duran Wood as well, in attendance to discuss this issue.
Yes, so no motion is required to direct yourself or Councillor Durand Wood to meet with the CAO.
Okay.
If you want the food count, or if you want to direct the CAO, then we would need to go through.
Oh, no, just to direct me. to
Yeah,
do this.
no, you don't need a motion
Okay.
to direct yourself.
Does anybody have any objections to that? No? Oh, yes.
I don't have any objection. I want to, in general, make a comment into that. I think I have done that before, but I'm just looking at it. All of us busy talking about this, and we're talking about $5,000 or $2,000 extra or no, and so our budget is 16,000 something, which is about $17,000 total. And Councillor White, I think you rightly pointed out there is something equivalent committee has a 84,000 or something like that, which we supposed to have the similar.
Right.
I think in that whole discussion, we didn't have enough effort into that so that we get that, so that it makes some significant amount. We are talking one of our most successful program, which is the community garden, and we are talking whether should we take some money from there or do we add that. I think we need to talk about a little bit more so that somebody will take us a little bit of serious. This is right now we're talking about very peanuts, even the consideration of Winnipeg, most probably compared to any other committees as well. So I'm not disagreeing to anything what we are doing. I'm saying there must be some little bit more focus so that this committee WFC gets a little bit more priority or get that particular funding.
Mattis, that's a great point. Mattis, and I would say what you're talking about, I had this thought, to your point, and that is so far I and the members of our team here, our staff team, are the ones communicating with members of EPC, the mayor's office so far. Okay, maybe what we need to do, and I think it would be good for Dustin and Mattis, anybody else too, but those who have this experience remote, maybe he's not all with us right now, but anybody else to come in attendance with us. Like we sit down with the mayor's office. It really is the mayor's office that makes the call, right? And that they need to hear from you, and myself. They've been hearing from me the frustration that we have with regards to the budget, right? And that if we have the food council, let's fund the food council and let's live up to the policy. I'm not saying it would be a BITCH session, but I'm saying that it would be a chance for them to hear our legitimate concerns that the ongoing funding situation of this committee is not acceptable, especially when council policy says otherwise, which is in our terms of reference. Dustin. Yeah,
Thanks.
And then go ahead.
To support any discussions at EPC, it would be my recommendation to list out all food-related projects that have been supported by each counselor in their respective ward. So it would say one ward has supported $80,000 over 5 years. One has supported 100,000, and the Winnipeg Food Council has 16,800. It might send a stronger message to say that individual counselors have more leverage to support food security related issues than the collective Winnipeg Food Council does.
Right. And the fact that we're actually inefficiently doing that, right? In a sense that we have two separate entities running around doing things with the city, when we'd be all coordinated through one, that would help councillors actually in the long run and their communities. Is there a lot of that's gone on that you've seen? Yes.
So to add to what Dustin just said, my organization, to use as an example, I hate having to use myself as an example, but here we are. One of the reasons I've wanted to get on the Food Council for so long is for two reasons. One, I don't see the efficiency in the Food Council solely supporting garden initiatives, right? Because garden initiatives only apply to certain people.
Right.
There's lots of people with barriers to access barriers to gardening. People who can't garden, people who can't put the time into gardening, things like that. People who don't have the mobility to garden. But at the same time, I see organizations like mine that are making a huge impact in food security through other means that are not funded and can't be funded by the Food Council. Because when I look at our funding and revenue, like we're self-funded.
Right.
We cater our butts off to make sure that we can fund everything that we do. And when I need assistance, I've never even thought to go to the Food Council. In 5 years I've been doing this, I've never thought once to go to the Food Council to go, hey, Food Council, can you help fund us for this initiative or that initiative? Because I go straight to my city councilors.
Interesting.
So over the last 5 years, I think I've received an average of between $5,000 and $10,000 funding each year from a mixture of, at any given time, Vivian Santos, Ross Eady, Cindy Gilroy, Sherry Rollins.
Where does this funding come? Where's the funding been coming from?
Usually through their CIGP or potentially from their, is it CWA? What does that stand for?
Well,
That's the War Allowance.
The Council War Allowance, but now they have that community fund too for the last.
So they have, 1 year, there was a ward allowance that we ended up utilizing through, can't remember which councillor, but it was because it was close to the end of the budget year.
Yeah.
And they had a bit of ward allowance left. And then with the community grants, they had a little bit left there. And anytime I've made a request, I make a request to each of them at the same time because our work stretches into each of their wards heavily, especially Santos and Eady. And because we're located in the North End and Point Douglas, so, and Minarski ward. So we've typically just gone, and I know there's a few other organizations that work in food security who have done the same thing because they don't see the viability of going to the Food Council unless it's something community garden related. So that's why I'd love to sit on that strat plan committee, that subcommittee.
Okay, well,
for the strat plan, because I think that there's a lot more that we could be doing for food security.
Yeah.
As a council.
Oh, yeah.
If we can stretch beyond just funding community gardens.
I agree with you. And just, on that point as well, when it comes to, we're initiating the strategic planning process. One point I wanted to make that I forgot to make, and that is I would like to encourage all committee members to really give that some serious thought about what your issues are that you want to have on the table at the strategic planning session, right? So that's going to be your chance to raise them, get them on the table in terms of direction to your point. Thank you. And I think what I'm hearing is, and to Dustin's point, what we would need, and I'm going to need the help of clerks here, to go back over, let's say the last 2 or 3 years max, and dig up all of the funding committed through CWA, CIGP, and Community Fund to see any kind of thing related to food security. So we can put that analysis, once we have that analysis, that then could go forward as part of maybe the informal meeting request when it happens with the mayor's office, which I think is a good idea, prior to going to the meeting in March of EPC. So, yeah.
To add to that, Councillor, some of the keywords that you could use for them, based on myself and other organizations that have utilized some of those funds.
Yes.
Good keywords would be food programs, meal programs,
okay,
food security, food insecurity, as well as food recovery or food rescue.
Food insecurity and food security.
Yeah.
Okay.
Food rescue or food recovery.
Okay.
Those are kind of the keywords that we've all used in our landscapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Or you might be able to pick those things out of
those for this too.
Yeah, out of those subjects.
Well, that's fantastic. I like that. Okay, thank you so much. And once we have that pulled together, I'll forward that all to the committee members, and then we'll make a request for an info meeting with the mayor's office, and prior to the March 17th meeting of EPC. So hopefully we can have a meeting of minds on this. So that just to drive back the point. I think it's going to be, I look at my own ward, for example, to speak for just myself, as you said, I don't like doing that. We do it all the time in office. But that, like last year, we have a Manitoba Housing in my area, and they have their own community center in a sense, and a coordinator. And, I went in there and saw in August, and, they have their own food. They basically have their own food bank. Mm-hmm. And I decided to fund enough milk for their program to take them to the end of this year, which was, I think, about another $2,000 plus $7,000 worth of food on top of that. to take them to the end of this year. You know, and that was something that I just didn't think. There's like hundreds of kids in this area, 100 homes, that children should go without fresh milk. But that's just me. But anyway, I think we all think like that. Anyway, so can we, what do we need to on this one, Madam Nicole?
So we would need a motion to accept the operating budget as attached as Appendix A.
Okay.
And then again, all those various discussions can be had between yourselves, the coordinators, myself, and you by all means can discuss with the CAO and various counselors about how to move forward with the different requests.
Just to be clear,
Yeah.
meeting more with the informal side and then formally EPC on the budget. CAO is on the staffing component of it, right? I'm trying to keep those things separate because it can get complicated if we don't. So, and that's more of an internal administrative decision and calling the CAO directors and so on the staffing point. Is there anything that you guys wanted to add at this point or no? Okay, Councilor Dunwood.
Just to clarify, meeting expenses, is there a separate budget for the lunches that were provided?
Yes.
Okay,
There is. Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions? See none? Who would like to move that motion? Councilor Dunwood? So moved. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Urban Agricultural Community Small Gardens, we've talked about that, the grants quite a bit. Is there anything else to add on it?
Yes, so with, if it's all right with the committee, then we will, following this meeting, we will launch the 2026 intake for this program with the budget of 11,000.
Okay.
It was 11,300, I believe.
Okay.
And with a deadline of March 27th at 5:30 p.m. The following week, then the applications will be reviewed to be presented to, with the recommendations presented to the committee for April 8th meeting, so that they can be forwarded to EPC and make it through the approval process in time to be able to deliver money to folks as they start their gardens for the year.
So, yeah, so where do the applications go? Where do the applications go or submission? Or when do we invite him back in by?
For March 27th.
That's the deadline.
That's it. So they're already out.
Not yet.
Not yet.
After this meeting.
Then we can post
Then we can
the application process is open.
Okay.
And people can submit their applications for their organization to receive funds from the Urban Agriculture and Community Gardens Grants Program.
Okay.
And then we would let them know by, a little bit after April 8th. But we would be presenting to this committee on April 8th our recommendations from that process.
So is it fair to say, okay, so could we, would you be able to supply me with just that, what's being drafted and sent out, just so we can have a look at it?
Sure, nothing gets sent out. It gets posted on the
What's
city
being
website.
posted, what's being posted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. That'd be great. Thank you. Anything else on that? Did anybody else have anything? Any questions? No? All right, so I'll call for a motion on that one. Moved by Dustin, all in favor, opposed, carried. The last item on the agenda, I'm going to combine it with my report if that's okay with everybody, because this is kind of, I put this on the agenda. This is just a project I want you to let, and I spoke about it before this committee. We have an old hockey arena in Transcona, which we were able to, we decommissioned when we added a new sheet of ice at East End Arena Community Center. And we were losing $400,000 a year on that arena. But now we're making about $250,000 a year at the community center site. But the arena, I undertook a process in this term. I campaigned on the idea in the election of turning Roland Mixture to the equivalent, what you see in a lot of places in Western Europe, for example. And I call it I'm calling it a local fresh food public market. In other words, bring in entities to be create a not-for-profit entity where you would have anchors, the anchors in the building, which would be, you would have your local meat supplier, your bread, so on and so forth. They would be the permanent anchors. And then you could have more of the temporary stalls in the arena. Just to give you an idea, the arena is about 40,000 square feet, plus heated square footage off the side, where it gives places for staging, food coming in and out. Also, the concept in the community of building into this, I'm calling it a community artisan art and cultural collective hub. In other words, a stage people can, there's a lot of local artists, they don't have a venue. And it's trying to build local capacity in the community, both in terms not just our community, but around the city in terms of food production and a way to drive up local food production and really to be a competitor in the future. Hopefully we can see more of these around the city to the big box, to the 2 or 3 families that control 70 or 80% of our food distribution system in this country right now, that we've allowed that to happen. And frankly, so just to give you an idea, I've spent up to $70,000 or $85,000 doing a structural study of the building. The building is actually now structurally converted sound. And I'm going to be earmarking more funds for the purpose of conducting, and now the next stage is a business plan, is to write a business plan for this center. I would welcome any members of this committee to participate, or if you have ideas of people who could be participating in formulating that business plan, to step forward, because I need all the help I can get. And really it's a chance, and I'm going to be, just to let you know, reaching out to Ron Kostician, the Minister of Agriculture, on this. I've known Ron for many years. I served on the AMM board of directors, or actually at the time when he was a municipal official, and now he's the Minister of Agriculture. I want to get this as endorsed as potentially a project for the Food Council too. I just want to be in mind. I want to see it coming free, but I would like to have, maybe put that on the next agenda. The idea was to get that endorsement here, but there's a lot of new members of the committee right now. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I want you to give some time to think about that as well. And it's really something to build probably into our strategic planning session too. So that's some thoughts. Anybody has any questions about that? And those are my thoughts. My goal as the chair is to try to get your input as much as possible and to feel that your time here is worthy of it, right? Your time is valuable. We appreciate your time. You're all citizen members. And really to make this year a chance for us to reboot the committee, so to speak, as we would reboot an old computer. So, and I really I welcome any kind of comments from committee members at any time. Email me, text me, and let me know your thoughts. If I don't get back right away, text me for sure. Okay, that's the best way. Did you see my email? And that's the best way to ensure that happens. And just to say, I want to thank our staff for everything they've been doing, and thank Nicole. I find this is we're facing a huge challenging issue as a city, right? Like all the cities of Canada, all the communities across the country. I don't understand how we have single-handedly in this country that we have, we're so-called breadbasket of the world, right? And yet we have seen the rising price of food, not to mention the rising price of housing. We have the most land, lowest densities possible, but we single-handedly have driven up the price of a lot for a family to start their life on. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And we really have to start to reverse that as a society. Food, I spent a lot of time going to Cuba, and I couldn't believe the Cubans and how they outmatch us when it comes to their own food distribution, and the fact that it's all organic. Because of the embargo, the Cubans had to invent organic. At one point, Monsanto came along and tried to buy out the technology of the organic program that they had, and Fidel Castro was told to go hit the road, Jack. So anyway, those are my thoughts, my comments, and I just want to thank everybody for the participation today. Thank you. Thank you. Do we need a motion on my report?
We need a motion for your chair report and the role and mission of proposal.
That was information, yeah. Okay, yes. Dustin, we'll move it?
No, that's good. Yeah, just clarifying that.
Sure.
Item 11 is just receiving information.
Correct, right. An update. Any other thoughts?
Sorry.
Dustin, will move that for me. So moved. Oh, very good. Any other questions or thoughts on it? See none? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Our next meeting is when?
April the 8th at 12 p.m.
April the 8th. And I would just like to add, I'm going to draft up a proposed agenda format for the future. I'd like you to put into it prior to the next meeting, if that's okay. I'll send that out to you. Okay? Thank you, guys. Thanks very much. Who moves adjournment? Dustin's moving
Can
adjournment.
I ask another quick question?
Yes, I'm sorry. Shoot.
I think of course it's my first meeting and everything. Just a couple of the actions. How do we go about that with, for example, the subcommittees? Who are we touching base with? Is it just the 2 subcommittees, or now is there terms of reference subcommittee and strategic planning subcommittee? I just want to clarify what's needed and who we touch base with. Is it with Danny and Busola
Right.
that I would connect with?
That's a great question. So basically,
Sorry.
No, it's great. I would say this, there's two permanent subcommittees,
Yeah.
right? One on the development and the other one, and the other one was on research. And so the idea is that we have, those are the permanent ones. Temporary subcommittees we have right now would be on the strategic planning initiative that we're going forward with and on the whole terms of reference issue. And budget, I guess you would call it too. But those are temporary. So in terms of point of contact, yes, Danny and Busla or myself too, both, all of us, you can CC me. That's not a problem. So, yeah. So thank you for that. Or if you have any thoughts or questions, right? No question is stupid, by the way. No question is stupid. No idea is stupid. Okay. Any other things before we wrap up? No? See none. I'll call for the adjournment question on the vote that moved by Dustin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll see you on April the 8th. Lots of work to do in the interim. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to send out